Well, yeah, it's getting tough out there. Yeah, no doubt. I work in home invasions mostly. Some murder, occasional rape if she's hot, or really bitchy. And I'm a huge advocate of gun control. Absolutely. Competition is stiff, and it doesn't help that every time I kick in a door or smash a window, that I face the possibility of being shot and killed. Listen, the fact is, allowing citizens to own guns creates a hostile work environment for me and my associates.
So great to be with all of you guys here today. Thank you for listening.
For the record, if you just give us your name as well, please.
I'm sorry, Corey Solier from Bristol, Connecticut.
Thank you.
I'm just a normal, everyday citizen that lives his life by what is known as the non-aggression principle. And in living under the non-aggression principle, it's the belief that most problems are best solved by way of persuasion and non-aggression as opposed to coercion. When I look at these gun control proposals, I see a lot of aggression and I see a lot of coercion. Specifically, Senate Bill 161 calls for banning ammunition feeding devices that accept more than 10 rounds. Now, if this were to pass and become law, and I use the term law loosely, because it's my belief that any law that is unjust is no law at all.
Should have to work under those conditions. I say make them all illegal. Absolutely. Make all gun ownership illegal.
Let's just say, try to think through this rationally. If this were to become law, and weapons such as a Bushmaster and AR-15 were banned, and let's just say that certain citizens decided to nullify this law and to peacefully and respectfully
Sonia, how are you today?
Good, thank you.
Hey, I got a curious question. I was looking at your website and I noticed that I can't find assault rifles.
I don't think there are any on there.
Yeah, I was wondering about that. Because I can't find a definition of that from none of the manufacturers. When our media is running around and saying there's assault rifles out there, when the manufacturers are saying there's no such thing.
Yeah, no, I don't. Remington doesn't have any assault rifles on the website.
I mean, I break the law for a living. I'm a professional, so it doesn't really bother me. I mean, but personally, knowing that most homeowners don't have guns, that would make me a lot more comfortable, more confident, and it would surely increase productivity. No
these
doubt.
weapons to the government. What would happen? I think we know what would happen. Police officers who are armed would go to these law-abiding citizens' place of property, armed again, as I said, and use the threat of violence to try to confiscate these citizens' private property, even though these citizens have not committed any acts of aggression toward anybody. And so when I look at legislation like Senate Bill 161, which would ban these weapons, I think it's a proposal of hypocrisy. I'm not a gun owner. I have never owned a firearm because throughout most of my life I never saw the need to. But when I see my government passing legislation such as the Patriot Act, which strips us of our inalienable right to be safe and secure in our persons, places, properties, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures, I see that as cause for concern. When I hear things like the House of Representatives passing legislation like the Cyber Information and Security Protection Act, which will allow companies to bypass all existing privacy laws to spy on communications and pass sensitive user data to the government, I start to get more concerned. And when the United Nations launches a little thing called Agenda 21, which undermines the leadership of local municipal governments via unelected UN workers, I become even more concerned. And when my president approves legislation like Section 1021 of the National Defense Authorization Act, which allows the military to indefinitely indefinitely detain citizens without trial, all in the name of protecting us from terrorists, I start to think, maybe arming myself to the fullest might not be such a bad idea.
So-called assault weapons. You say that they don't have any defense use. You tell that to the guy that I saw on a videotape of the LA riots, standing up on his rooftop, protecting his property and his life from an entire mob with one of these so-called assault weapons. Tell me that he didn't have a legitimate self-defense use. Just one final statement. I've been sitting here getting more and more fed up with all of this talk about these pieces of machinery having no legitimate sporting purpose, no legitimate
Dickhead
hunting
Schumer.
purpose. People, that is not the point of the Second Amendment. The Second Amendment is not about duck hunting. And I know I'm not going to make very many friends saying this, but it's about our rights, all of our rights to be able to protect ourselves from all of you guys up there.
And that's a fact. That is a fact, ladies and gentlemen. That woman couldn't have said it any better than that.
Marlin or Bushmaster.
Yeah, it's funny how the manufacturer actually defines a product, but somebody else does something else and says something else.
Correct.
Yeah.
That was from the horse's mouth of a gun manufacturer called Remington. Go to the gun websites of the manufacturers. Look up the product list of all of the weapons that they sell. You won't find any one of them with the name called assault weapon because they don't manufacture assault weapons. There is no such thing as an assault weapon. That is a voodoo word that a politician or some psychosomatic wacko in government or somebody that just doesn't like those things created this trigger word. And it has nothing to do with it because it isn't an assault weapon. Assault is an action word. I can take a bat and assault you with it, but a weapon that is an arm of any kind of weapon. Hell, why don't you just call howitzer cannons assault weapons too? Because they assault you. I can pick up that cannon and beat the shit out of you with it.
Are you
So,
Second Amendment lady? For the Second Amendment? Hell yeah.
Are you a Trump?
Actually, I'm filing for my conceal and carry permit.
Why?
And why is that? It's dangerous.
That's a
right
fact.
now.
and then we're going to listen to this to follow up on some of this. This is very current.
You again for your time today. Good morning, right? The United States of America, above all else, is a constitutional republic. Yes, we have a democracy in which we get to vote for our elected officials, but our elected officials, you, above all else, are limited in your power and in the legislation that you pass by the Constitution of the United States, a document on which you raised your right hand to God and swore an oath to, a document whose premise is regularly under attack.
Irrelevant to who they swore the oath to, God or the devil or the man on the fucking bum on the corner with a sign asking for change. It doesn't matter. You swore an oath. That's like me saying to you when you ask me, hey, Rich, I'm going to tell you something. I want you to swear that you're never going to say anything to anybody about it because I'm sharing this private information with you. And then you go ahead and just go around and start advertising it. That is a traitorous act, okay? Because if you agreed not to say something, then you're a traitor. And in the prescripts of the Constitution, it has instructions how to deal with this, okay? It even tells us to deal with it in this manner. It's our duty to deal with it in this manner, in the grievances that this man is talking about right now. And that time is very, very, very close because that tree is very, very extremely thirsty.
Unfortunately, it's being attacked by the very people who are sworn to abide by it, our government. And it's our own faults that the Constitution is under duress.
One more thing I'm going to interject, that these acts that they're doing, even abrogating, talking about violating any of the oaths and the protections, thou shalt not infringe. If they stand up there and abrogate that they're going to do something about a item that cannot be infringed by them themselves, is an act of treason, which comes with the fact of hanging in public. Yes, that's where they are right now. Should be swinging from the nearest light post out of those government buildings. Technically, by the prescribed instructions, we should be dragging them out of those houses and throwing a rope over those posts and hanging them until they're dead. Dead.
We, the American people, who are supposed to have control of our government, have been asleep at the wheel and all too trusting, while you, our legislators, senators, representatives, and politicians of all parties and backgrounds have run amok, unabashedly using your power and influence to limit the freedoms and liberties of the individual. Americans love to proclaim that we are a free people, yet have lost sight of what it means to be free, and in saying so are lying to ourselves. Yes, we are fortunate enough to have freedoms that others in the world do not, but we are no longer free as our founders had intended us to be. Yet those very founders had foreseen how even in America, a runaway government could become problematic, and they added a constitution to an amendment to the Constitution, a failsafe, so to speak, that would protect us against the rampant abuse of power by our government, an inalienable constitutional right to keep and bear arms. The founders saw this as so important and necessary, it was the Second Amendment to our Constitution.
Number 2 on the list. What was number 1? Our big fat mouths, for a big reason. Because if they try to shut us up, number 2 is on the list to make sure that we can speak freely. Because come and take them from my hands, baby.
Directly following the right to free speech, which I'm fortunate enough to benefit from here today. The founders of this great land knew, having just won a war for their freedom against an unjust power, that given enough time, all governments have a propensity to become too powerful, and as a direct result, the freedom of its constituents falters. This was their reasoning behind their inclusion of the right to keep and
here we are again, ladies and
Constitution.
gentlemen.
They even went so far as to include, even though it's already implied, the phrase, shall not be infringed.
And they have no idea what that means, obviously, anymore. And the funny thing is this, that the Constitution, Bill of Rights, even the Declaration of Independence was written into a mannerism that it could not be misconstrued, could not be interpreted in any other form than what they were reading. And it's not from, it's from those times. The word is in the words, and the words still mean the same thing today as they did yesterday. And that is a fact. And the fact that these people are violating their oath breakers, okay? They have violated their oath. You can't come and violate a law just because of, we call it national security for the better of society and blah, blah, blah. You cannot infringe on people's rights for any whatsoever excuse. And this is what the founding fathers meant by that, because they knew in the future that these people would be con artists and try to con you out of something for the better of something. And then that's where the tyranny even begins even worse. They become not only dictatorish in their mentality, they become even violent and murderous criminals after the fact that they know that no one can defend themselves on any other level because the state and the government has all the weapons. That's exactly why we have the Second Amendment.
This does not mean that you, regardless of how many people call on you to do so, can limit the type or capacity of the firearms that we, as free Americans, can own.
Let me say something else. The majority. We live in a mob oligarchy democracy today. It isn't a republic. It's an oxymoron to say we live in a democratic republic. It's either a republic or a democracy. I would rather live in the republic due to the fact that it protects the individual rights, and everybody protects the individual because everybody is an individual. And guess who is the largest minority of us all? Is the singular person. It's not a race. It's a singular identity, a human being, you. And the majority does not have the right. This was our magical thing in our country. The majority does not have the right to vote your rights away. That is tyranny, ladies and gentlemen.
Don't forget that at the time of this country's founding, Americans had access legally to the same type of weaponry that the military had. And that was the point.
That's right. We had cannons, we had bombs, we had grenades, we had whatever it took. If we had nuclear weapons back then, we would have had those too.
It was for our protection against the state. That's how we can keep them in check. I think if we look at the tremendous amount of overreach practiced today by the United States government, it's pretty apparent why those at the very top want to take away this means of protection that our forefathers entrusted to us.
And you know the reason why they want to do that? Because they know that people are starting to wake up and see what criminals they really are. And they're starting to make decisions if they're going to actually act upon their duty that is prescribed in the Constitution. Because nobody wants a bloodbath. We have been vigilantly, patiently standing by, waiting to see what's going to really happen with our criminals in government. And they're proving to us they're no other than criminals. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, in that hour, and that tree is awful thirsty.
They realize that we Americans who hold our liberties dear are fed up. We are tired of being overregulated. We're tired of being taxed until we're near penniless. We're tired of our money going to a Federal Reserve to pay an unsustainable debt that we have to international banksters who couldn't care less about America. We're tired of having to ask for government's permission and licensure to do things that are within our God-given rights as free people to do.
And guess what? The abuses that the Crown was doing at the time before the revolution is far less than the abuses that are going on with this particular government that we have today. Did you hear what I said? Far more abuses. Look at the grocery list on the Declaration of Independence, at the grievances why we were separating from the Crown. Look at them. I could write 10 pages and still keep writing the abuses upon the people from this particular government. And look, since the last 40 or 50 years, some of these people are dying in office. That's how long they've been there. Those are the very people who are the traitors. Yes. Yes. You're looking at your traitors every day. Yes, they are. They are traitors. No other word about it.
We're tired of seeing state-run programs being ran inefficiently, ineffectively, and wastefully. We're tired of news outlets, Hollywood, social media, and the education system being used as propaganda to indoctrinate the populace.
Amen, amen, amen. That is exactly spot on, 100% what is going on. It is a tool. They're manipulating the minds of the Americans, and they're so foolishly stupid to believe it. And here we are, ladies and gentlemen, in a division, in a separation of a country because of all of the different ideologies that these terrorists in our government are allowing mass migration to happen, to create division, because the idiots that are coming over here have no clue about what happened. How it happened. And you know me, whoever listens to me, there's been a lot of bad that's happened in this country too, but we can't go down this road either. This is not a good one. We have done many things wrong, but let's stop doing the things wrong and allowing the other people to do things wrong as well. We all know this is wrong. We all know our government is highly corrupted through in and throughout, outside and inside throughout. It is done. It's over with. We need to do what is prescribed in the Constitution to reestablish another form of government by the people, not by the oligarchs, not by the elites, and definitely not by the globalists. Set another standard again. Time for a reset.
Advance the state's agenda. We're tired of being lied to. 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 We're tired of going to war under false pretenses. We're tired of going to war under false pretenses. We're tired of going to war under false pretenses. We're tired of going to war under false pretenses. We're tired of going to war under false pretenses. We're tired of going to war under false pretenses. To summarize, we're tired of our uncontrollable government. 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 While we feel our voices have fallen on deaf ears to our politicians, make no mistake that amongst the citizenry, there is a quiet storm brewing. We are approaching a tipping point, and you'd be remiss to think that those at the top of the power structure aren't shaken by this. Make no mistake that amongst the citizenry, there is a quiet storm brewing. Make no mistake that amongst the citizenry, there is a quiet storm brewing. Make no mistake that amongst the citizenry, there is a quiet storm brewing. We are approaching a tipping point. We are approaching a tipping point. We are approaching a tipping point. And you'd be remiss to think that those at the top of the power structure aren't shaken by this. And you'd be remiss to think that those at the top of the power structure aren't shaken by this.
Yes, they are. This is why they're trying to pass all these gun laws. As I repeat myself, the more we wake up, the more we start calling them out like this gentleman is doing to their faces, it's scaring them. They're not going to be good people. They're going to use this as a fear action, as a threat, and they're going to make it even worse. And he's even said it. You're going to create a dangerous environment by not following your oaths. You will be the direct blame for the bloodshed in this country. And if that ever does happen, this is my own statement. I hope the people hunt you guys down like wild animals and deal with you just like accordingly like wild animals. Because you're bringing this upon, for whatever reason, I don't know, it could be stupidity. And I'm going to add the last to this. Just look up who's writing these laws. It's a clique. It's a group of people. And they're the same very people that said somebody took the weapons from them and mass murdered them. Those are the same people who are trying to take our weapons today. As I said, read the laws. Read who writes the laws. See who they are. See what group they're associated with. And you'll be surprised that they're dual citizens. Dual citizens to another nation. And that other nation they're loyal to, not America. And they're serving in the seats of our governments. We have a problem in this country, ladies and gentlemen, and it's seriously deep-rooted, and we're not addressing it properly. Have a good day.